Kia ora. That means good day and nary. Welcome to a new series of the Hangman channel, To Stop a Predator. This series, To Stop a Predator, is a new series that we shall be showing the general public a glimpse into the real-life threats and security responses for the movie and television industry. Guerrilla projects where the journalist or reporter puts themselves in high-risk situations for the story. Recently, we have undertaken a large project for a nameless studio whereupon the principal, Chris HANSEN, was shooting for television series whereupon HANSEN would subjugate himself into a room, usually alone, with a goddamn predator of many different types and backgrounds. This television show that Chris was exceptionally dangerous, and had we not been there and contacted to run assist with the show, I fear that Chris's life would have been taken, and the night would come to a darkness where the lights would shine not so bright without that star above. Every time Chris walked into that room alone with one of those sweaty, sex-driven predators, he placed his life on the line, son, for you and me and the general public, and he did so without even flinching. It takes a hell of a man to do that, son. Nerves of steel. Let me give you a couple of examples about that danger, because you see, you never know what background that each of these predator perverts had. The only information we had on these perverts was what we could glean and obtain from the decoy's communication with the predator. You know, standard height, weight, penis and ball size, which is of course important, and cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds by the way they transported to the house for the meeting with the decoy, be it by plane, train, car, bus, foot. You tell a lot by the way a man transports himself. We took a big gamble every time one of those perverts got aroused. Danger close happened a few times, especially if the predator was a police officer, and of any time that would happen, it would cause us to hit the switch when we had rapid response teams in place to effect an engagement before the predator turned up to the house. Now, these danger close events happened on a frequent basis, and if indeed we weren't able to obtain intelligence upon the predator, and if indeed that predator made it into the house with a concealed weapon, you have to look at worst case scenario, son. When you tell a man, especially a police officer or a soldier, that you're the guy that is busting them for being a sick, twisted pervert, and from then on, their life is most likely going to be prison. Well, son, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what most probably would happen next. And son, that man, that myth, HANSEN, would come back and start shooting the next scene, not within weeks of danger close mission, not within days, not even hours, son, usually 4 to 5 minutes. I've seen him do it under 3, I tell you, with my own eyes. I've seen HANSEN do it. Hell of a man, son, hell of a man. Now, the first thing we have to do in specialist security protection is to assess all the variables within the event to gauge the level of security needed. Now, first off, we have to look at Mr. HANSEN himself to assess what if he himself could do in an event where he had to stop a raving pervert from attacking him once Chris would step out from behind the security curtains. And indeed, that is what these Hangman episodes are all about. Episode 1 is to be able to place into the category of threat awareness all of those predators and people which we believe that if they were to bowl across their kitchen table or engage in a physical altercation set upon Chris in those 7 seconds before Ronnie would get there, be able to stop there and restrain that angry perv. We're here to finally put this baby to rest. Those online rumors about certain predators being able to attack Mr. HANSEN and beat him up, we're here in this series to slam those rumors. So in this episode, we have all of those people that were in those shows, of which Chris did, of which we believe that through thorough assessment of our intelligence and on the basis of meeting these people up close and personal, that Chris would be able to defend himself and most likely beat up the person attacking him. So if you believe that someone else should be on this list, then please, by all means, put it down in the comments below. Just no rumors, no rumors. So, sit back, grab your cat, put it on your lap, and give it a pat, and let's get into it. Welcome to episode 1. Episode 1 is to show you those people that are on set for To Catch a Predator. That if those people were to attack Mr. HANSEN, that Mr. Hansen could not just defend himself, but beat the shit out of them. Now, first out of the closet was this little princess, wanting a 14-year-old boy to ride his little pony. Ryan Cooper boy stepped out of the closet, into his car, into our house, then onto the chair. Hell, son, the stench of wet dog was all around him. Every time I hear a dog, I see Ryan's pretty little face staring up at me. It's both sick and exciting. But he is someone that we believe was no threat. And if he did attack Mr. Hansen, Hansen would beat 7 shades of shit out of that bum sniffer. Son, make no mistake, Hansen could take him. Now we're also placed Dopey and Stinky into the beat the shit out of cat. Through a thorough background analysis run on Dopey, left us a little round-eyed that he was related to Bruce Lee and 700 million other people. Still, no need to panic. That leaves us with Stinks, as we refer to him, slippery little prick. One of the security boys lost his job due to him not finding a giant fucking bottle shoved down his pants. Disappointing and confusing, as he had a giant fucking bottle with a teaspoon of whiskey. Now, he did get a little too close for comfort to the boss, especially with all those knives around there. But we had it picked that Chris could wipe out that dirty little prick clean. Now, moving forwards on the Chris Hansen could smash you bro bus is Chuck Harden. Not much of a threat, really, but a sneaky old bastard, though, as he was part of the ancient fraternity of grandpas. We picked that up as we see some chatter on the code word, "I gotta call my mother," was used. So we pulled back, not to arouse old Grant's suspicion, and we sent old Captain Price on shadow detail to find out more about the threat. But, unfortunately, old Chuck had a massive heart attack and died shortly after. Next up, we have Stan the Man. The thing with Stanley is he'd look at you as though you were the pervert. Stan's what we call the security field as an organized predator. What that means is they make lists of everything. You can see that clearly in his chat. Though he had a couple of decades of teaching under his belt, it wasn't jujitsu or karate, but maths. And son, maths could never beat Chris's right hook. Plain and simple, son. Vicious. Stan the Mac would have a heart attack. The next pussy pervert that Chris could smash was James Wiles. He got the old feathers up after limping in. As you see, he was just over 50, but maintained a disheveled look of an 85-year-old. Definitely got the hairs up, and almost, I say almost, got one of the boys fired from the security squad when he pulled out a concealed weapon from his pants. But then we let out a breath of air. You see, son, it was his dick, which apparently was dead, and had been for some time. But even with this elderly cloaking device, Hansen could have barbecued that hamburger. Because of a couple of these tactics he had in play, we thought it best to attach a security detail to follow this pervert around for a while. So we assigned Captain Price to run that detail. Not for long, though, as the pervert had some kind of accident and died. Next up is Casey Moreau, codename The Lure. This was a tough one, actually, as a lot of us thought that she might be able to dominate Chris if she got the takedown within the first few seconds. We also had to take into account her teeth, as if she was a biter, she could do some real damage if she got Chris in the clinch. But then we gave it to Chris. We believe his reach was his advantage if this was to become an encounter. Next on the pain train is Giggles, Timberlake, and Mumbles. We're using their code names because we could not securely identify their actual. We thought that Mumbles might have been a bit of a problem, as his movements were swift, almost like ancient gung fu. That is until we got the readings back from the lab and found out he was just twitching from all the cocaine. Timberlake couldn't even push God, so there's no chance he would have pushed Chris over. And Giggles, well, that fucking pervert, he just giggled. Chris would have wiped the smirk off that childlike face. Easy peasy. Next on the plate of perverts is Willie D. This type of threat is one where we had to boost up the old body scans, and that's exactly what we did, son. We may have saved a few lives that day, as this type of predator falls into the category of an accessorizer. These bastards can get the drop on you in a blink of an eye. They can have a rubber cock ring whipped out and shoved so far down your throat, it's over before you even know it begins. The asphyxiation, they call it. But without such accessories and in hand-to-hand combat, we believe that HANSEN would mop the floor with this sick, twisted pervert if he ever was to attack. Thomas Campbell, a.k.a. The Hobbit. Good with the old mouthpiece, some say even the best. Lost another one of the security detail on this one. He got an item through, wasn't picked up in the initial scans. When he whipped it out of his child-sized pockets, we all had our guns drawn. We're about to make the move. But then the stand-down orders came through. It was just an inhaler. Just an inhaler, son. Old Bilbo likes to smoke cigars and penis. We did retrieve the inhaler on arrest and ran a DNA sequence, and it came back that indeed he was half hobbit and half a fraggle, which means that way back in the distant past, there was interbreeding amongst the species. Who would have thought that, boy? Who would have thought that? We have HANSEN 10-1 on Bilbo. Bet he'd blow him away, son. Not a problem. Once again, we got the orders through to keep a close eye on old Bilbo. So we set Captain Price up on him. Get that detail, take a snoop around, find out what he could. Once again, and unfortunately, poor old Captain Price had to lose another one. This guy just walked off a bridge. Horrible thing to happen. Oh, now this next fella, he put the whole studio on red alert. He rolled up driving a taxi. You know, that's the #1 choice of vehicle used as blast cars in hot zones overseas. So we immediately opened up a channel with Central Intelligence to get some facial recognition to identify this terrorist. We almost made the jump to hit the switch when he got up and approached HANSEN, as he was standing directly in front of the knife drawer, and all we could think of was Jihadi John. So we all prayed to the real God, and she answered, and Bin Laden sat down again. Seconds seemed like hours, son, waiting for that intel to get back. We thought at one stage he knew his cover was blown, and he decided to end it by taking a cyanide capsule. So again, we almost hit the switch until we confirmed it was just a bicky from the plate. Finally, after what seemed like 9 minutes, but it was actually probably about 6, we hit the jackpot. Central Intelligence came back and informed us that he was a member of the Big A. No, son, that's not an academic. No, it's not Al-Qaeda, son. It's worse. The Aladdins. This perp's code name was Alibaba, and his cover is to cruise around chat rooms acting like a pervert, wanted to hook up with 13-year-old girls and pass it off as, he's just going to watch some movie or something, play some games. Now the Aladdins aren't known for their battle readiness or their hand-to-hand CQB. They're more of the intelligence side of the terrorist cell. So if push came to shove, we believe that Chris would have opened sesame on Bin Laden's ass. Well, next up on the Chris list, we have South Bay Guy. This threat was borderline, with more bored than line. Originally, we thought he was a bodybuilder in the off-season, until we realized with the South Bay Guy, there isn't any on-season. Though he was a chubby perv and had the weight advantage against Mr. HANSEN, we felt comfortable that HANSEN could take the large bull of perv. You see, on this type of predator, it's hard to gauge the right response, as this type of predator is either a risk taker or the dumbest guy on the planet. We had to weigh up the thought process of this pervert. You see, a rational thinker would interpret an event such as going to a stranger's house to commit a sexual assault upon a minor. Then in the back of their heads, the warning signs that this may be a setup. You see, for us and everyone else, would be a load of police cars out the front of the house and the police shouting, "Get down on the ground, you pervert!" Clearly, that would be high on the list for us to recognize that this was a setup. But this type of pervert, he doesn't think the way we do. That's what makes him so dangerous and unpredictable and easy to catch. Especially when they're as big boned and carry a lot of water. You see, son, they get bored, they get complacent, they get caught. Next, through the door of danger, we have selected Jay Refner, a.k.a. the Meat Rocket. Now this was a very dangerous man to cross. He may look like a small fat pervert with an angel's voice, but this encounter was one of the greatest threats we faced in the production of the show. Now, in analyzing the transport of how he got to the house, we found that he was dropped off by his mum. There was a bit of confusion at the start, actually. You see, when she dropped him off on the security feed coming in, we see her trying to put something down his pants, and obviously we thought, gun, 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 but we called it wrong. We should have been saying, nappy, nappy, nappy. It all started a few weeks after taping Meat Rocket. A hell of a scare. Chris was downtown when out of nowhere, someone yells out the words, "Fuck you, gringo," and shut up the front of the cafe Chris was sitting in. Miracle no one was killed. It was after this filming of Meaty Rocket, Mr. HANSEN started to receive threatening phone calls late at night on his private phone. That's when we knew this person was serious. So that's when we got the feds involved. Forensics managed to clean up the voice as best they could. Take a listen. We ran a voice analysis of the threatening phone calls through its national database, and that's when we got a hit.
Yes, the defense is requesting that the court consider releasing the defendant on his own recognizance. He is not a flight risk.
Running it side by side, it was a perfect match. Just so obvious. Now, since this was so personal to Chris, I'll let him tell you who was making those threatening phone calls. It was
his mother.
That's right, Meat Rocket's mummy, known on the streets by her handle, Mama Todavia Amamanta, ex-Sinaloa cartel. Nasty piece of work, nasty piece of work. It's amazing the things these forensics can do these days, just with the hair of a ball bag. Nothing like it back then when I was a cop. We owe the feds a great debt for pulling Todavia Amamante off the streets and saving Mr. HANSEN's life. A great debt that we paid. But that's in another episode. Well now, look at the time. Unfortunately, we've run out of it. And there are a few more of these perverts that we indeed believe Chris HANSEN could smash over. But we shall leave that to the next episode, episode 2 of How to Stop a Predator. We do hope that we have opened your eyes to the dangers that man put himself in for guerrilla journalism. In episode 2, we shall be looking at those people encountered on the series that if they were to attack Chris, that they might, and I just say might be able to take him down.